Have you ever wondered about the roots of leftist movements in India and their impact on the nation's political landscape? Leftist movements, a fascinating phenomenon that has shaped the course of human history, have their roots in the ideological principles of equality, social justice, and workers' rights. Tracing their origins to the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century, these movements have left an indelible impression on the global political arena. They emerged as a reaction to the rampant exploitation of workers during the era of industrialization, advocating for a society where wealth and power are shared equally among all its members. From the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia to the rise of social democrats in Europe, leftist ideologies have played a pivotal role in defining the contours of modern political thought. They have fueled revolutions, inspired social reforms, and given voice to the marginalized sections of society. Now let's turn our attention to India, a nation with a rich history of political and social movements. The inception of leftist ideologies in India can be traced back to the colonial period. During the tumultuous years of the struggle for independence, the principles of socialism and communism found resonance among a section of Indian freedom fighters. They saw in these ideologies a potent tool to challenge the exploitative colonial regime and to build an independent India on the foundations of social justice and equality. The early socialist thinkers in India, influenced by the global leftist movements, incorporated the principles of equality and social justice into the broader narrative of the freedom struggle. They envisioned a post-colonial India where the fruits of independence would be shared by all, not just a privileged few. Simultaneously, the communist ideology, with its emphasis on workers' rights and class struggle, also found a foothold in India. The formation of the Communist Party of India in the 1920s marked the formal entry of communism into the Indian political sphere. So, the seeds of leftist ideologies were sown during the struggle for India's independence, but how did they grow and evolve over time? Let's delve into that. With the dawn of independence, the leftist movements in India began to take shape. The journey of Indian leftist movements cannot be discussed without mentioning the formation of the Communist Party of India, or CPI, which emerged as a significant political force in the early post-independence era. The CPI was born out of a desire to address economic disparities and social injustices. Its founders were inspired by global communist movements and the teachings of Karl Marx. The party's early years were marked by a steadfast commitment to the upliftment of the downtrodden and the working class. However, the ideological unity within the CPI didn't last long. In the mid-1960s, the party was split into two factions. The ideological differences centered around the approach towards the ruling Indian National Congress. One faction believed in maintaining a cooperative stance, while the other advocated for a more confrontational approach. This rift led to the formation of the Communist Party of India, Marxist or CPM, a breakaway faction that would go on to play a significant role in Indian politics. While the communists were making their mark, another leftist movement was also gaining ground, the Socialists. The socialist parties in India were driven by a similar desire to address economic inequality and social injustice. However, their approach was distinct from the communists. The socialists were less dogmatic, more flexible, and more open to working within the framework of a parliamentary democracy. The rise of socialist parties had a profound impact on Indian politics. They introduced alternative economic models and championed the rights of the marginalized. Their influence played a crucial role in shaping India's political landscape and ushering in policies that aimed at social justice and economic equality. Thus, the initial years of independence witnessed the rise and proliferation of leftist movements in India. But what happened next? As we delve deeper into this fascinating journey, we'll uncover the significant milestones, the current scenario, and the future prospects of these movements. So stay tuned as we continue to explore the intriguing world of leftist movements in India. The trajectory of the leftist movements in India has been marked by significant milestones. This journey began in earnest with the establishment of the first democratically elected communist government in the world, right here in Kerala in 1957. The Communist Party of India, under the leadership of EMS Namboodiripad, emerged victorious in the elections, setting a precedent for other leftist movements worldwide. This government introduced radical land and educational reforms that significantly impacted the socio-economic landscape of Kerala. demonstrating the potential of leftist ideologies when implemented effectively. Fast forward a decade to 1967, and we find ourselves in the midst of the Naxalbari uprising. This peasant revolt in the Naxalbari region of West Bengal marked a major shift in the Indian communist movement. The uprising, led by radical communists like Charu Majumdar and Kanu Sanyal, advocated for the rights of the landless peasants and tribal people, challenging the status quo and inspiring a wave of similar movements across the country. Then comes the emergency period under Prime Minister Indira Gandhi from 1975 to 77. This period, characterized by the suspension of democratic freedoms, saw a surge in leftist movements as they vehemently opposed the authoritarian regime. The leftist parties played a crucial role in mobilizing public opinion against the emergency, further establishing their place in the political fabric of the nation. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. These movements faced their fair share of challenges, including ideological differences, internal conflicts, and state repression. Yet, they persisted, driven by their commitment to social justice and equality. These events marked important chapters in the history of leftist movements in India. But what about their current status? Fast forward to the present day, what is the status of leftist movements in India? In the current Indian political landscape, leftist parties continue to hold substantial influence in certain states, while their presence has dwindled in others. Kerala, West Bengal, and Tripura serve as strongholds for these movements, with a rich history of leftist ideologies shaping their political and social fabric. In Kerala, the Left Democratic Front, an alliance led by the Communist Party of India, Marxist, has been a significant player for decades. The state's alternating pattern of governance between leftist and right-wing coalitions testifies to the enduring influence of leftist ideologies. West Bengal, once a bastion of leftist politics, has recently seen a decline in the influence of leftist parties. However, the legacy of over 3 decades of governance by the Left Front Alliance, led by the Communist Party of India, Marxist, remains deeply ingrained in the state's political culture. Tripura too has a substantial leftist presence, with the Communist Party of India, Marxist, having held power for an uninterrupted term of 25 years until 2018. However, the picture isn't as rosy in other parts of the country, where leftist movements have seen a decline. The reasons for this downturn are multifaceted, ranging from the rise of right-wing nationalism, economic liberalization, to the alleged failure of leftist parties to adapt to changing socio-political dynamics. Critics argue that the inability of these parties to modernize their ideologies and strategies has led to their diminishing relevance in the broader Indian political arena. Despite this, it's important to note that leftist movements have played a vital role in shaping many progressive policies and social reforms in India. Their focus on social justice, workers' rights, and equality continues to resonate with many sections of the Indian populace. While the influence of leftist movements has waned in some regions, they continue to hold sway in others. But what does the future hold for them? As we look towards the future, what prospects do leftist movements in India hold? In the world of politics, nothing is static. The future of India's leftist movements, much like their past, will be shaped by a dynamic interplay of challenges and opportunities. The landscape of politics is changing, and with it, so must the strategies and narratives of these movements. One of the major challenges that leftist movements face is the emergence of a new political paradigm. This paradigm is characterized by the rise of identity politics, where political affiliations are increasingly being shaped by issues related to religion, caste, and ethnicity. To remain relevant, leftist movements will need to navigate this complex landscape effectively without compromising their core principles of social justice and equality. But it's not all uphill. There are opportunities too. The youth of India, a demographic that is rapidly growing in number and influence, presents an untapped potential for leftist movements. Young Indians are more educated, more globally connected, and arguably more politically engaged than ever before. They are also more open to alternative political ideologies, including those of the left. The key to tapping into this potential lies in the ability of leftist movements to craft a narrative that resonates with the youth. This narrative must not only address their aspirations and concerns, but also inspire them to envision a future where social justice and economic equality are more than just ideals. Furthermore, the future of leftist movements will also be shaped by how effectively they can leverage new platforms for political discourse. The digital age has democratized access to information, making it easier for movements to reach out to a larger audience. However, it has also made the political discourse more susceptible to misinformation and polarization. Navigating this new terrain will require a delicate balance of adaptability, authenticity, and resilience. Only time will tell what the future holds for leftist movements in India. But one thing is certain, their impact on the nation's political landscape has been indelible.